A high-powered rifle may be just what you'll need. Yet it still seemed like an unnecessary complication to me. I hadn't looked forward to juggling a rifle and a shotgun, plus a lot of hunting paraphernalia, in addition to the camera junk I was already saddled with by my role as photographer. However, as Mac had pointed out, I'd been out of touch for a long time. I wasn't familiar with the subtleties of peacetime operation, but I did remember clearly from the war that there were limits to the amount of argument Mac would tolerate from a subordinate, particularly when he felt he was being extremely clever. "Okay," I said hastily. "You're the boss, sir." I hadn't wanted him to change his mind about putting me back to work, and now I was landing on European soil again after better than 15 years, with the same old feeling that everybody was looking at me and my belongings with knowing X-ray eyes. There was bright sunshine outside the customs shed. Well, as bright as you get in the fall that far north. It would probably have seemed like a pale and wintry day back home in New Mexico. There was a wide cobblestone street outside full of weird left-handed traffic. The Swedes, along with the British, persist in driving on the opposite side of the street from practically everybody else in the world. There were 2- and 4-wheeled vehicles in just about equal numbers, with some oddly shaped 3-wheelers thrown in for good measure. The taxi that took me to the railroad station was a German Mercedes. The train itself had an old-fashioned, unstreamlined look that was kind of refreshing. I disposed of my heavier baggage with the proper official and started to get into one of the cars, but stepped back to let a woman board first. She was quite a handsome young woman. From where I stand, 30 still qualifies as young, and she was wearing a severely tailored blue suit that did justice to her figure in a nice, understated way. But her hair, under the little blue tweed hat that matched her suit, was also blue, which seemed odd to me. Of course, there was really no reason why a good-looking female of youthful appearance, whose hair had turned white prematurely, shouldn't dye the stuff blue if she wanted to. I followed her aboard. She apparently knew her way around Swedish rolling stock better than I did. I lost track of her in the unfamiliar surroundings. It had been a long time since I'd last patronized a European railroad. This car was divided into small 8-passenger compartments marked either Rockara or Icke Rockara. Remembering from my Minnesota boyhood that Rocka means smoke in Swedish and Icke means no, I had no trouble understanding the distinction, particularly since other signs gave the translation in German, French, and English. I selected an empty non-smoker and settled down by the window, which could be raised and lowered by means of a leather strap about 4 inches wide. I couldn't recall the last time I'd been on a train that wasn't sealed up tight for air conditioning, but of course they wouldn't need that here in the shadow of the Arctic Circle. It was a long ride to Stockholm, through green, partly forested country, interrupted by a multitude of lakes and streams, and accented with red barns and orange-red tile roofs. Around 3 in the afternoon, a little late, having traversed the entire width of the country from west to east, the train entered the capital of Sweden across a long bridge over water. But it was 20 minutes more before I could extract my junk from the baggage room and transfer it to a waiting taxi. I'd got over my first feeling of stage fright. Nobody seemed to be paying the slightest attention to me now, except for some kids intrigued by my big Western hat. One of them came over and bobbed his blond head politely. "Yes," I said. "What is it?" "Orfa bror and cowboy?" he asked. In addition to having had some contact with the language as a boy, I'd been given a quick refresher course, not only in the language but on other subjects as well before being sent out. But of course I wasn't supposed to understand a word, and somebody might be watching, so I looked blank. "Sorry, I don't read you," I said. "Can't you put it into English?" A woman's voice said behind me, "He wants to know if you're a cowboy." I looked around, and there she was again, blue suit, blue hair and all. Bumping into her a second time didn't please me a bit. It wasn't a contact because there was nobody here I was scheduled to meet in this manner, and I'd once survived a war mainly by putting no faith whatever in the power of coincidence. It still seemed like a sound principle to follow. "Thank you, ma'am," I said. "Please tell the kid that I'm sorry, but I never roped a steer in my life. The hat and the boots are just for show." This was another of Mac's fancy ideas. I was supposed to be something of a rustic Gary Cooper.